Hi guys, if you're there, I will be getting started in a couple of minutes. And as you're just all joining us right now, I'll be able to see the number of people, and I will get started when I see that there are people online. Sorry for those of you seeing this recorded, because you'll see this little bit of a couple-minute lull in between me getting on for the first time and then us getting started. So I apologize for that. All right, looks like some of you are joining us here, I hope. There we go. I'm just looking for some feedback. So I've posted a message in Facebook just to see if you guys are seeing me properly, because I know last week I didn't do this as a live recording. It was actually recorded without anyone watching. So just checking, getting feedback before we get started. I'm just mentioning in the Facebook group right now that there's a short delay, and I wish it was exactly live, on time, exact minutes, but I think it's a couple, maybe 30 seconds delay. So, okay, awesome. Looks like you're seeing me now, so that's great. All right, so I am going to get started so that we can get through this tonight, and I'm just getting out of Facebook so I don't have those distractions. Great to see some of you on there tonight. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to week number 2. Right now, I still don't really know how I can add people to this. Actually, there is a way that I can add people, but I'm not going to do it this week. I think we'll try that another time. Just for the sake of getting through this, what we are going to do is open up the lines at the end. So that just simply means at the very end, I've got a slide that I'm going to share with you that will be a call-in number. Now, some of you may not have access to a long-distance plan right now. Maybe you're on your cell phone or you're watching from someone else's house and you don't want to use their phone. So what I will do is I'll continue to record this portion while I'm on speakerphone for any question and answers that we can go through at the end. But until then, just jot down any questions that you come across as you go, and then we can always open up the lines later on. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to get right into it. All right. So this week, week number 2, we've got lots to cover. So I'm going to try to do this very quickly, but also very in detail. So the details for this session tonight are, we're going to go through a little bit of what I learned, and some of you might have been there also in Vegas at the Amplified Leadership event. Jack Canfield talked about success, and I just want to share some of those real amazing tips with each of you. We're also going to talk about our why, and you know, our why is so important. I'm actually just checking my phone here for a second. Bear with me, because I don't want to miss if there's something that is important that you guys maybe can't see. Okay, I'm hoping that some of you can give me some feedback. Are you hearing me? If any of you have my text, I know this is, again, perfectly imperfect. Learn as we go. But someone just messaged me to say that they aren't hearing me. So please message me if you can hear me. And if you have a cell phone handy and you want to give me a quick text, I don't have Facebook open now, so my cell phone number for this purpose would be 705-718-8385. Some of you may just have to turn on your volume. Before I go any further, I'm sorry guys, I just want to make sure that you guys are hearing me. because I know that Pam Barnum had a webinar one time where nobody was hearing anything. So I just don't want to go through a long process here without you hearing me. Excellent. I'm seeing that people are hearing me. All right, perfect. I'm going to keep going. Thank you so much for the feedback, and yeah, keep it coming if something happens, because here I live in a place that internet connection isn't always the greatest. So if I get lost along the way somewhere in cyberspace, just let me know and I'll stop talking and I'll try to figure out what went wrong. So we're going to talk about your why and why it's so important to have a why. We're going to talk about a bit about the vision board, not a lot about it because a lot of you have probably heard about it, but we're just going to talk about the real basics to it and why they're really important to do if you haven't done one yet. How to use the tools, and again, this is something really simple. We go to work to complicate this business, and I'm really hoping that with the use of some of the tools that we already have, that we are going to be able to, simplify your life even more. Because if you want to create a sustainable business and an amazing foundation, we need to remember that tools are so important. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I mean, even this tool, for example, I've taken a lot of the information from other trainings and I've just developed this for my own purposes to create my own little spin on it. But in the end, this tool is still a tool that everyone can use. You can change it, use it as you wish, which is exactly what I've done. So we really want to use the tools when we can. We're going to talk a bit about network marketing and why this is the best business to be part of. Isogenic stats, really brief. Those are two areas that we're going to be really brief about. And your story. We're going to end tonight with your story, and we're going to give you 2 examples of how you can create a really powerful story. Action steps for this week. So if you have not prepared for your week 1, please go back and take a look at the files section in our Facebook group, because there's about 7 or 8 steps that I just want you guys to go through, because we are going to be using those things as we go. So there's a few things for you to print out. I did recommend that you get a binder and line paper. You can go through all that and just see if you've prepared yourself for what's to come in the next coming weeks, because I think that when you have everything and it's easy to get to, there are times where I'll say, okay, turn to the 3-star playbook and let's turn to page 5 or whatever. So it's always good to have everything at your fingertips if you can, if it's possible. We're going to talk a little bit about accountability. Some of you are doing an amazing job of that. I've even seen that some of you are using the group to say, hey, does anyone want an accountability partner? As I mentioned in a previous post on that group, because we have over 80 people now in the group, I cannot be, it would take me every moment of my day to keep up with all the emails that are coming in. And I thank each of you for doing that. I do not have the time, however, to give you feedback every time you send something, but I am keeping a really great awareness of who's sending things in and who's not. I'm certainly not here to judge where you're at. If you're not into the accountability portion, I still want you to be able to learn this amazing stuff. So don't put that pressure on yourself if that's not where you are at this point. But if you really are interested in accountability, do your best to really either do with a partner, accountability 5 days a week out of 7, or you can certainly send me in the emails every day saying, this is what I did today, just your action steps. And it's up to you to decide what accountability you want to what you want it to look like. I know when I went through this program the first time, for me, I really wanted to, do my 3 contacts a day. And that's what I did before midnight every single night. Clearly, there are times, like even after this call tonight, you might not have connected with one person yet today, but maybe your goals are to connect with one person a day. Keep in mind that we have a lot of time zones. So even though we're going to end at around 10 tonight in Eastern Standard Time, you still have a few really great hours, in the Western provinces that you can connect with people. And remember that connecting today is very different from even 6 years ago. The internet has become such a valuable tool, so utilize the power of social media to connect with people. We're going to talk about creating your why using the tools, and we're going to give you tools tonight for all of that. And your 30-second story as well. We're going to use a couple different really great theories. All right, let's talk about Jack Canfield and success. And this is really cool because it's just more, again, of an awareness piece that you might find really valuable. And some of you may have already heard this stuff, but it might be really, really valuable for you to, either take notes or go through this again in recorded version, because I do believe that many of you are already in the category of high achieving leaders. And then there are many of you right now that are looking to this course in hopes that it's going to change where you're at currently. And, you know, chances are some of you might just be like most other people. This might be something, you know, this MIT program and series might be something that gives you hope, and I hope that it does. But I don't want it just to give you hope. I want it to really help you take action, because we know that with hope alone, we're not going to get far. We do need to take the action. And many people are just not willing to take the action necessary. So we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. So what Jack Canfield says the difference is about, and I actually added a fourth one, even though he said that 3 things separate high achieving leaders from most other people. When I took the notes from Vegas, he had all kinds of other things, and I added at least one more at the end. But unusual clarity. You know, if you have a goal or you have a purpose that you want to share with the world, you really need to be clear about it. And that's something that I'm continuing to work on. I mean, here I am 6 years into the business. And when David Wood says that every master was once a disaster, that can't be, you know, further from the truth. It's so amazing how much when we get started doing something, it is a train wreck. It really is. Some of you are doing some brand new things that are getting yourselves completely out of your comfort zone. And I know a few of you watching tonight have done that recently. And it's amazing to see where you're at, because it might make you feel so nervous to do something new. And I'm just going to say an example of like doing a selfie video of yourself, you know, talking for 2 to 3 minutes, maybe giving people some motivation or a task that you're putting them up to the challenge of doing, that kind of thing. That stuff's scary. But what it is you're creating a new environment for yourself to be seen, to be a leader, to be put in front of people, and having that clarity of what purpose you have or what kind of message you're trying to give your listeners. That is huge. So even in your posts, any of your posts on social media, be so clear about what it is that you're sharing. And it doesn't have to be wordy. I know I'm really guilty at making things really wordy. And this was something that I realized after that Vegas event, was to be more clear when I'm either talking, when I'm posting, when I'm creating a video or some sort of a written piece. Be really clear, because when we're clear, it's going to distinguish you from the rest of most people. He also says, number 2, that they've developed developed many powerful success habits. So, you know, we've talked about this before, discipline and consistency. John Maxwell even said at that event that consistency is not sexy. It really isn't. But so many people are looking for the secret to success, and consistency is the one key area that separate people from being successful and not successful. So when you look at that, consistency is small daily actions done over time that create that massive, massive momentum later. And many of you have probably heard me before, if you've heard me speak, that one of my favorite books is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Another one, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Those 2 books are phenomenal, and they really give you the sense of how important it is to stay consistent with this business. If anything else, touching your business every day is going to really help you in the long term. But keep in mind, what's easy to do is also very easy not to do. It's easy to say, oh, I didn't get time to do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. And you know what? Half the time, some of my days are so busy, like today, I had such a busy day that I could have easily made an excuse to not do this tonight. But I knew that I was going to make it happen. Sometimes it means that we have to take 15 minutes out of our day and just take a pause and say, okay, whoa, I need to take this 15 minutes right now and touch my business. And in 15 minutes, it's amazing what you can actually accomplish if you're very focused and very efficient with your time. And that comes to the next thing, discipline of self-awareness. You know, this is so key, and that kind of goes into what I just said. We show up more fully and present when the time is for us to be in action, and we're also more willing to give value to more people each day. So that might be through your posts online, that might be through your, you know, your video blogs or whatever it is that you're doing. Make sure, though, that it's not about you constantly. You want to add value to people by giving them something that they can take away, because when people are watching what we do, they're looking for what's in it for me, right? So you always want to keep that in mind. What's what's in it for your listener? What's in it for your reader? What are you trying to be an example of today? And that's how we're adding value to people. Something that I constantly say to myself every morning is, how many people will I add value to today? I don't know who those people are going to be unless I've got my list in front of me about, who my contacts are that day. But half the time, I seriously do not know who it is that I'm going to add value to that day, because my day is constantly changing, especially with kids. And then before bed at night, my question to myself is, how many people did I add value to today? If those are two things you start to change about your day, it's amazing how much more aware and fully present that you are. I'm not saying it's perfect every day, perfectly imperfect, but being aware of that, I think, is really key. And again, awareness tools. Ask questions to help become better at something. So if you want to become a better spouse, ask your spouse, how can I become a better spouse? Or what could I have done differently today or this week that could have made me a better wife, a better mother, a better leader, a better teammate, any of those things. Start putting those questions out there and see what kind of feedback that you're getting. And it's amazing when you can be so humble to allow those answers to come. Number 3, and I think this is one of the most important ones, of course, is taking 100% responsibility for results. It's easy for us to blame. It's very easy for us to complain. It's very easy to have something negative happen. But what if you turned it around, instead of blaming that person or pointing fingers or making it about the circumstance? Ask yourself, how did I create that? And chances are there's a way that you could have created an alternative result. Sometimes it's that you actually have to walk away, right? It's hard to do, but it's something that in some cases, the escalation of whatever happened may have actually not happened if you walked away from the situation. I get it. I understand that there are people in our life that tear us down, that have nothing nice to say. But these are the moments in your life right now, if you want to change where you're going, that you do have to ask yourself those questions of, is this person worth my time right now? And they might be a loved one. They might be a family member. And it's a tough thing to do. I know I've had to do it myself. But I realize that I'm the sum of the 5 people I spend the most time with. So I better be picking some really amazing people that are not constantly sucking the life out of me. That is my responsibility. That's not their responsibility. If they're negative and they go through all kinds of blame games all the time and complaining, that's their stuff. That's not my stuff. But I have a responsibility to myself to choose where I spend my time and with who. Number 4, and I like this because Jack did mention this later on in his discussion, is that, high achieving leaders continue to learn. We're always students. We're never feeling like we know it all. Really, it's important to remember that, even though I'm creating this document tonight, I am always open for continuing to learn. And it's funny how when I do prepare slides like this, I'm continuing to learn through my notes, through some books that I have on the go, and just trying to add more value to some of the slides for the time that I'm using. And I did add the 5th one, the go-givers. He also talked about how when we give, we receive, but in order to give, we must also receive. And some of us have a hard time receiving. So that might be a practice that you need to start doing, is that you might be a really great giver, but start being okay with receiving as well. Because if you can't receive, you really shouldn't be giving. So it's a two-way street. All right. Now, why are you here? Because this is really important to remember, that if we don't have a why, it's really not going to take us very far. So let's start with this. If you don't personally right now know why you're doing what you're doing, you will never continue when the going gets tough. And I'm going to tell you this again, because I think I said it last week. We are always only one conversation away from quitting. When you've got that person you love and respect and admire that tells you you're stupid, this is ridiculous, you are crazy to think this business is going to do anything for you. If you don't have a really strong why, and the second portion of that is a high level of belief, then you may not be here next month, next year. All right. And I don't want to see that happen. So that's why I'm really trying to give you these tools to be able to say, okay, when I get my why really strong and my belief is really a 10 out of 10, then I am going to be an unwavering person, and nothing anyone says will ever stop me. Your why must also include detail for you to connect on all levels of emotion and your senses. So I know PK Smith, an amazing trainer who some of you have had the absolute pleasure of being either coached by or at an event that he's hosted. He has done an amazing description of his why, and it is so detailed. He talks about what he smells when his dreams have come true. In fact, the very first time I ever heard him talk about his why and his vision, I did not know that it wasn't real yet. He took me right there to where he was living, what he was doing, who was with him. And it wasn't until a couple months later that I realized he actually isn't a grandfather yet, but he talked as if he had grandkids. And, he talked about the barbecue and the smell of the barbecue and the emotion that he had when he saw his kids and his grandkids having such a great time doing cannonballs in the pool and the splashes hit his face. And it went on and on about all the emotional parts and all the senses. So he had the hearing, what he heard, the music, pumping out some old, I can't remember exactly what it was, but maybe it's 50s and 60s music that you really love. Or it could be the sound of motorboats that you're, whizzing around in and taking your kids on, their first water ski adventure or whatever it is. Put all the senses into it because it really makes it so much more believable and more tangible. And when we get to a level of emotion, that is when you become unshakable. So, start practicing with that. Instead of just writing down your whys with little detail, start adding more juicy details to it, including the emotion and the senses. Like the emotion meaning how is it making you feel, and your senses, of course, as we know. This cannot be a secret to others. So this is the thing. Many of us have this big, hairy, audacious goal, and that's what that BHAG says or stands for. But many of us are so afraid to tell other people because we think it's so big, hairy, outrageous, it's just so big and out there that we're afraid to be laughed at. And I will tell you something. I had a dream that I started telling my husband in the first year of my Isagenix business. And it was one that was big, hairy, and grand, right? So when I told him about it, and I'll tell you right now what it was. I don't know if this is still my why because my why has changed a lot. But at the time of being 1 year in and still not even close to a 6-figure income, I mean, my first year I only made $8,000. But my second year went up to $47,000. Within that 1 to 2 year range, my big goal was by the year of our 13th anniversary, and we just celebrated our 10th, so that would be another 3 years from now. By our 13th anniversary, I wanted to take 60 people with us to a destination to renew our vows, and that our children would be there as our witnesses. They'd walk down the aisle with us. We would exchange our vows again. But because I chose the number 60 because I was so grateful that 30 people joined us when we got married the first time in Cuba on the beach. So I thought, at 30, it would be great to bring all of those people back with us. That would be awesome. And then it was actually Kevin and Pam Barnum. When I told them that, Kevin said, I dare you to double it. And I went, oh my gosh, that makes me feel sick. And at the time that I said that, I went, you're right, I should double it. And then I realized that, between the year 2005 when I got married and between the time that the 13th anniversary would be, and I chose 13 because I absolutely love the number 13, I realized that we're going to meet a lot of people before that year. And there's going to be at least 30 people that I'll want to bring with us. So anyway, all I'm telling you is that I had a big goal. When I told my husband, and for those of you who remember, he was not on board the first 18 months with this business at all. When I told him that big, hairy, audacious goal, he actually looked me in the eye and he said, please don't tell anybody that goal. And I remember feeling a bit deflated and angry and just like, see, I told you so. You're so negative, because that's how he was. And I remember just saying, you know what, Kevin actually dared me to double it. So that's why I picked the number 60. And my husband still said, I think that's crazy, and I really hope that you don't tell people. And he said, I don't want you to be embarrassed when it doesn't happen. And, that is what often happens when you have those big, hairy, audacious goals. Please realize that if your goal isn't so big that it scares you, number one, or you have a lot of ridicule or laughter or people saying you're crazy, don't talk about it, don't share that, then it's actually a really good goal to have. Don't make them so small that they seem so realistic that you could reach them next year. Make it big enough that it scares you. All right. This is something that PK Smith always used to tell us, you know, don't worry about the how, just know the why. All right, so I didn't write that exactly down there, but don't worry about the how. The how is not your business. All right, just know that you need to just know the why, and the actions that you take will take you to that next place. And, you know, here's the thing. You are going to stretch into someone that you're not right now. So who you are today, you know, that big, hairy, audacious goal, the reason why it scares you so much is because you're not the person that you need to be in order to reach that goal. That is the whole process of this, is that you're stretching. That's why I love this business, because it is like a personal growth journey with a compensation plan attached, right? So as we continue to succeed, we're growing into a totally new, transformed person in our mindset, in our beliefs, everything. We're trying to shake what status quo has taught us, the conditioning that we've had up to now. And that's what's going to change. You're going to change who you are today to who you're going to be. All right, I just want to read a paragraph because I just think that this really came kind of in handy with this whole topic. From Mike Dooley's book, Infinite Possibilities. I absolutely love him. If any of you know about him, he has tut.com, TUT.com, and that is someone who, he actually writes notes from the universe, letters from the universe every single day in your inbox if you sign up for his free emails. And it's really cool because, you know, it's really positive stuff to start your day. So if you want to sign up for his letters from the universe, you'll get a kick out of them, I'm sure. So he talks about clarity being, oh, did I do the right one? Yes, I did, okay. So really about clarity, but it really links to your why. Your job is to define as clearly as possible exactly what it is you want on both a physical level and, even more importantly, on an emotional level. But too many people I've met simply say, I want to be rich, without giving any thought to why. They may reply, it's obvious, I want to live without ever having to worry about money. There's nothing wrong with that, but once they achieve that, what are they going to do with their lives once they've actually achieved that? The better you can answer these questions, the clearer your intent will be, and the easier you'll find it is to think about, and then to bring about whatever you're wishing for. So what do you really want? This is a great question to ask yourself. What do you really want? Think about it now and really define it. I think you'll see that this question can sometimes spin off into an exercise on beliefs as well, but there's no harm done there. Understanding ourselves better helps us understand our truest desires. And the greater the clarity and certainty we have with our desires, the faster they manifest into our lives. So it's just another example of really get clear on your why. Start bringing that emotion in. All right, vision boards. This is next step. So if you've not done a vision board before, or if you haven't done one in over a year, it might be time to revisit that. Now, some of you like to do vision boards on a big board. That's great, awesome, some like that. And really all a vision board is, for those of you who've never done one, is just something that you're going to put visual pictures of things that you want to achieve or accomplish or travel to or whatever. So you might go through a bunch of magazines. I mean, obviously the internet nowadays, it's so easy. You can go in and search a keyword and find awesome photos that you can print off. Some people, I've even seen them do like a little photo album that fits in their purse. You know, you can go to the dollar store and get a little tiny photo album that they carry around with them. So it doesn't have to be a big board. I know for me, I'm going to share one with you that I did the very first year that I got into this business. And the very first vision board I ever did was in 2009. And I did it actually on Oprah.com. It was an online version, which I absolutely love. And I'm not exactly sure what links you go to, but I'm sure if you go onto Oprah.com, it's still there somewhere. You might have to do a search for vision boards or dream boards. Why statements are also very important. And, you know, Jack Canfield and many other amazing leaders talk about how written goals are so much more important than just speaking them. So, keep that in mind too. Affirmations. Some people do affirmations really well, and Jack Canfield gave us an example in Vegas, and it was really simple. This is something I have not done, not consistently anyway, but I love how simple he makes it. So I am so happy and grateful that I now. So just fill in those blanks. If you're not really sure how to do affirmations, this is a nice simple way to create some affirmations. And do it as if you've already achieved it. So that's why you're saying, I am so happy and grateful now that, or that I now am a published author, or that I now live in the Bahamas, or whatever it is that your dreams are, just speak as though you've already achieved those things. So there's some next steps for you guys as far as your why. All right, so this is some of the stuff that I actually don't like to share, because I feel sometimes like when I say that such a low number of people will actually do what's required, it's not because I am trying to hurt anyone, but when you think of it, there's 82 people in our group, the last count I saw, and that really means that only 8 to 16 people are going to actually do what's required to succeed. The rest of the people that are in that group, and I hope that it's a higher number. I mean, we can certainly bring that number higher, but on average, that's what usually is going to happen. So knowing this in advance, it doesn't bother me that we're having low numbers call in live. I'm certainly seeing a lot of people viewing the recording so far, so that's good. But what tends to happen, and I'm going to be completely honest and transparent, I've done a lot of courses, some much like this, and some that are completely personal development based and not Isagenix based. Every single time I have a huge number of interest, and by week 3, 4, 5, the numbers have gone so low that it almost doesn't make sense for me to continue the course, and it's discouraging. But one thing that Peta Kelly said recently on one of her videos was, so many people get started and they never continue, or they're not as excited, by week 3, week 4, and this could be for launch parties. Maybe you're doing a weekly launch party at your house and you're getting really great turnout the first few weeks, and then your numbers start to diminish. She said the worst thing that anyone can do is quit offering what it is that you're offering just because your numbers are going down. Because the right people are going to start to show up, the serious people will stick around, the serious ones will continue to come, and we don't need to let down that 1 or 2 people that are still showing up to just say, oh guys, I'm not going to continue this now because we're down to only 2 people. So just keep this in mind when you're doing your own trainings. The more you continue to keep showing up, the right people will continue to show up, and sometimes it takes a while. All right, so are you willing? This is a great question to ask yourself. So keep in mind, and we've heard this before, that if you want to get something you haven't done, you must be willing to do something you've never done. And I often hear people say, if I do X, Y, Z, it's weird or not like me. And this is something like, say for example, I'm not, the most common thing, I don't like Facebook, that's what people say to me. And I didn't either when I started. Or somebody might say, it's not like me to post things in Facebook, or it's not like me to do a video on Facebook or use other social media or whatever. Maybe you're someone who just really uses Facebook to creep people, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but maybe you never contribute to the world of social media. You just go on there and you're curious about other people's lives, but you never share a minute of your life with anyone. And that's very common. A lot of people are just like, I want to see you, but I don't want people to see me. And if that's the attitude that you're going to carry, then I'm sorry to say, but it's not going to change. Your life will not change in the way that you want it to. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but that's just the way it is. He says, Jack Canfield talked at the event, and he said that it never will feel like you until it becomes you. So it might feel weird at first, but if we're wanting something different to happen, we must be willing to feel weird and uncomfortable, right? And just like David Wood said, every master was once a disaster. Are you willing to be a disaster? Because that's what it's going to take. Watch your thoughts for they become things. And I love this because even in that book that I'm reading through, the one that I just shared with you, Infinite Possibilities by Mike Dooley, he really talks about thoughts become things. So we really have to be cautious. Have you ever heard yourself say, I want to be wealthy, or I want to be a millionaire, but I'm not sure if I have the time, or I'm not sure I want to work that hard, or I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. So are you using those words in conjunction with the but or the I'm not sure, right? These are, again, so key. If you're aware of what you're saying, you can change what you're saying. Because if your thoughts are doing this, you know that you're being contradictory in your thoughts, and you're never going to move forward. You're always going to stay stuck where you are right now if you're feeling stuck. Because in order to move forward, you can never have that but. It always has to be about the positive, not the negative. So stop having the opposite thoughts. This is actually hurting you and your chances of success. And you must be willing to be aware of this and be responsible to change those limiting beliefs to be positive beliefs. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take some practice. It all starts with awareness. I'm sorry for the typo. Focus only on what you need instead of, what you don't want. And certainly stop focusing on how it's going to happen. Because remember what I said, you just need to know the what and the why. And don't worry about how it's going to happen. All right, so I'll tell you a really quick story about my vision board because I think it's pretty cool. This was the first vision board I did, like I said, on Oprah.com. And clearly all three of my kids were born at that time. Actually, this was an updated one, so I don't think this was my very first one because Jack was only 6 months old when I did my first one. And there's Kate in the very middle there. She was just a little infant. So this was probably done, I'd say, a few years later, like 2011, maybe early 2012. But the cool thing about this photo, and for those of you who have either been to my house or seen my house, sorry, I didn't have time to grab a quick photo of my house now, but in the bottom left corner, you'll see a picture of a house with a kind of a wraparound veranda with some nice lights and shutters on the house. And funny enough, when we were living in a town or a city named Barrie, for those of you who are not in Ontario, my house was in Barrie before, and we had all three of our kids in that house. I did not like the house we were living in, but we were only there for a very short time when I started saying, I don't like this house. I feel like we really need to move. It just felt wrong. There was something about it. Energy-wise, it felt weird. So my husband was just like, you're crazy. We need to put equity into this house. We're not moving. And when we got to that house, we actually lost about 3 or 4 houses to bidding wars the previous year. So we kind of had to just fall into this house and honestly take whatever we could get because it was, our house was sold and we had to make a move. So that whole year was just, I felt miserable. I didn't feel right in the house. And anyway, things were going on. My husband was so against moving. So I was away for business for a week. And when I came back, my husband said, oh, by the way, there's a house for sale out in Phelpston. And I said, oh, yeah. And I didn't take it seriously because he really wasn't very interested in moving at that time. He wanted to stay at least 3 or 4 years in our house to create more equity. So I didn't really think much of it. And he goes, well, I drove out to see it. And of course, my eyes opened a little further because I was like, really? But I still wasn't 100% sure he was being too serious about it. And he says, it has a pool. And of course, the one thing we said, if we ever moved again, we would move to a pool. So I was like, really? And he says, yeah. And I called the agent and I went through it with the kids a couple days ago. And I'm like, okay, now you got me. What the heck are you talking about? Because you don't want to move. And he says, I know, but this house came up and I think we should really take a look at it. So as we drive by, we weren't going in it that day, but we drive by it so that he could show me the house. I said, oh my gosh, that house is almost identical to the one in my vision board. And he goes, what? Your vision what? Because he had no idea about vision boards and he wasn't really open. So I showed him this picture because it was on my phone. And I said, this has been on my vision board for a few years. And he went, no way. And of course that was, probably not quite the way he said it. But anyway, I just want to say to you guys, put it out there. You just never know. You never know. And it's good if you know what you want to just start putting it in pictures, put it in writing, really be real about it. All right, so enough with that. I do want everybody to maybe take a snapshot of this or maybe, I'm not going to give you enough time to write this down, but truly you can, take a picture of it or something. And we're not going to have time to go through all of this tonight, but I do want to just give you some really important tools. I'm kind of jumping to another segue here into some other things, but I felt that this was really important to bring up because some of you are really looking for helpful resources to not reinvent the wheel. And I'm really grateful that some of you are posting in our group for help because that is where everyone's going to learn together. These are all great. I mean, obviously the left column, the favorites these are all corporate websites and they're very, very helpful, all for their own reasons. And there's other corporate ones I haven't included, but these are the most common ones that I personally use. Some that you might not know about are over on the right side. So allinOneBusiness.net and allinonebottle.net are both websites that actually have been created by leaders that are in our team, like way, way, way above us. They live in Montreal. Carol Taylor and Peter Ullman, they created those websites and they're just so valuable. And I have to say, I apologize to those of you who get on their calls normally because their calls are usually on Wednesday nights at 9. And that's something that I've never been on their calls, but I've recently subscribed to their newsletters. And their calls are on Wednesday nights at 9. So I apologize to those of you who have been getting on those live calls, but that's something that I do need to check and see if they have recordings. And I'm pretty sure that some of you on this call tonight can help me with that, if you know. But as far as ISATeam Success, this is a website that Susan Sly and Chris Archibald have created for us, and that's where you probably would have gone to print off your 3-star playbook. It's a great site. It's really helpful. So certainly bookmark that one and you'll find great resources there. And we will discuss some of these in more detail later, but just wanted to give you a snapshot of some of my favorite sites that I use on a regular basis. All right, so let's take a really quick, brief look at the network marketing industry. And I have to say an apology in advance because I did not have time to change this slide. This is old numbers, but just be mindful that these are not stats that you want to quote now. And again, I apologize because I like to have up-to-date current numbers. Just know that these are growing quite regularly. So, here's just a quick snapshot. It's very hard to get to $1 billion a year. And I just want to say, this was obviously a few years ago, their stats. But, a few years ago, we only had 8 companies in the world that were reaching $1 billion a year. And for those of you listening right now, I will find the right slide to share with you guys because it's great to have these kind of stats. But right now, I just didn't have my hands on it. But I mean, here we are. We are slated to be $1 billion company this year, annually. So, and we're only in our 13th year. That's pretty phenomenal. And it takes companies a long time to get to $1 billion a year. So that's pretty exciting. So how does Isagenix compare? Again, these are really quick stats. I didn't bring a lot of stats into this, but we've been 13 years in business. We're currently open in 13 countries and growing. We just have over 500,000 active members worldwide, which is nothing in comparison to what we could be. We're about to have our first $1 billion year, which is very unusual, like I said, for network marketing companies this young. Most companies that hit $1 billion a year are usually in business over 25 years if they make it that far. So this is a pretty amazing feather in our cap. John Anderson is known as the Mineral Man, and he has thousands of patents worldwide. But if you don't know the story of John Anderson, he decided to create his own business, Isagenix, which would be only distributed through network marketing channels because he knew that it would be word of mouth advertising instead of putting tons of money out for advertising. And he also wanted a no compromise product. When he did his patents and sold his patents, he actually found that they were compromising his product and making it better for profits. So he didn't want to retire, knowing that that's what his products were starting to be out in the marketplace. He didn't have the control of it once he sold the rights to it. So people were filling, his stuff with all kinds of things, the fillers. So, are all products created equal? Absolutely not. We're just so fortunate that we've got such an amazing formulator that wants no compromise. And of course, we know that we're backed by science now. Years ago, if you would have had somebody, a scientist or a doctor join you, they would have wanted to see some science, some, studies. And even, 5 years ago, we didn't have any. So it's just great that Isagenix is really investing in the right areas because we do want the science to back us, to make it more, credible and all that. All right, and this is a really great tool. I was going to show you a little snapshot of it, but I want you guys to take a really good look at this, because if you want more really great info, and sometimes, not every time, but sometimes I use this video as a tool to give to new people. So when you go into isagenixbusiness.com, which actually I'm going to see if I can do this right here. Hopefully you're seeing this. And I'm going to click on training, learn it. And then the very first one is Experience Isagenix Presentation. And it's a video with Kathy and Eric. And it's really, really comprehensive. It actually used to be known as the opportunity presentation. So a really great one to consider if you want to share with somebody. But, you know, when I share it with someone, I might share it and say exactly how many minutes in that might be really interesting for them. I want to make it so that they're not feeling they have to watch the entire thing because it's long. But if you tell someone maybe a starting point that you think would really interest them, and know your person, know what their goals are. Because if you know what their goals are and you're setting them to exactly 7 minutes in, for example, then they know that, wow, this person really listened to what my goals are. And yeah, that first 4 minutes at 7 minutes in was exactly what I needed to see. So just keep that in mind. It's a great, great video if you haven't seen it already. All right, let's see if I can go back here. Hopefully you guys aren't losing me here. All right. All right, so really in the end, it's all about hanging your ladder with the right company. And that's so, so key because many people, and the next slide will share it, you might know people who have given up on network marketing altogether. And I was almost one of those people because I had 2 companies previously that I had been part of. You know, I struggled. I spent more money of my own to try to make a buck, to try to stay active, because a lot of other companies, you know, you had to have so many in sales. There was a sales quota, and it was a much tougher business to get to be part of. A lot of things weren't as many, you know, it wasn't as consumable. So, you know, there was only so many of the products that I could actually buy for myself and then continue to give gifts each month when I was trying to get my quota. And I constantly felt like I was bugging people to have parties for me. So here's, for anyone who's just seeing this for the first time, I've been able to, and you know, the whole key is never give up on your dreams. Because really, I had a dream to become a published author, and one of the things that did happen was that I was able to share my story in something called Networking Times. It's a generic networking magazine, and this was actually my 2nd issue that I was given access to be part of, and it was more of an interview, this one. As you'll see there, there's a picture of my 3 kids at the bottom. And you know, if you know someone who's given up on network marketing and maybe they're feeling discouraged, you will find a written online article under seeitwhenyoubelieveit.com. Oh, sorry, you know what? I don't think it's there. It might be, but go to taracooper.ca instead, and under the About Tara tab, you'll see both articles. One that I wrote, it was a 2-page article about just becoming a better person because of network marketing. And the second one was the interview, and it really did talk about, you know, make sure you're hanging your hat with the right company, hanging your ladder with the right company, because it's all about being with the right company. Network marketing is not the issue. It's either the belief or the support that you don't have, if you don't have support, and also the level of belief that you have. So, you know, just that's a great one. And if anyone wants hard copies of that, I don't mind giving them. I've got many. One part of being, you know, interviewed was that I had multiple hundreds of copies. So if anyone needs hard copies, I'd be more than willing to give them to you. Just send me a message. All right, we're almost getting near the end of this, so I'm going to try to speed up a little bit here. But this is something that Susan Sly talks about. We need to have these 4 things in order for things to work. So we need to have a skill set, right? Skill set is important. If we don't have the skills, then we're probably not going to do well. Many of us come in with already built skills based on our careers, our pasts, all that kind of stuff. But some of us have higher skill than others. Skills can be learned. Skills are things that even if you come in with no skill set, you can learn them. So that's what this whole course is about, is that we're kind of interweaving some skills amongst the things. So even tonight, you know, talking a bit about your why, that's a skill. To be able to talk about your why and share it and write it down and do your vision board, that's a skill. Hopefully we'll have some time to do about our 30-second story and stuff. That's, again, another skill. Activities. So again, we need to take the action in order for the skills to be put in place. And we can't get results without taking action. Attitude. Obviously, one of the main things that I asked you to print off the very first week was the attitude assessment. And that is huge. If people don't have the right attitude here, it's going to be a really tough business. And I know for a fact that there are many people that never check their attitude, and they are still years later struggling like crazy. So it really is an important part of the puzzle. And then results. Obviously, if your skills, your activities, and your attitude are all in check, then your results are going to show for that. If you're not getting results years later, you want to go back. Am I doing the skills? Am I learning the skills? Am I doing the action? Am I having the right attitude? Those are all things you want to ask yourself. All right, a lot of fundamentals, which we are going to cover over the coming weeks. So just kind of as a brief overview, three-way phone calls, huge, huge, huge tool that honestly will change the course of your business. If you're not using three-way phone calls, stay tuned for that training segment because it's going to be really powerful and you're going to want to start practicing. Handling objections. One of the hardest things in this business are the objections that you get constantly. The more confident and the more belief you have, the less objections will start coming your way. So that's something to look forward to having less of, and I promise you it happens. You'll get less and less all the time. 30-second story, which we're going to try to cover tonight. Explaining the compensation plan. This is key. You want to really know how the compensation plan works. We are going to be teaching you that on these series. And a brief product overview, and I say brief because you do not want to ever be a product expert. I promise you, the more you know about product, the more, how should I say it, the less success you'll actually have, the less duplication that you'll have. If you are known as the product expert and you get asked questions constantly about product and you constantly answer those questions, you will really have a hard time attracting business-minded people. You're only going to attract the product users. So be really clear on what you want to attract. And then plugging someone in and the 8 steps to success. So we're going to go through all that over the course of the next few weeks, but that's just something to stay, aware of. So let's get into our story a bit here. Again, we've got only 10 minutes and I am going to open the call at the very end. So we're going to go over our hour for anyone who does want to have some questions answered. But your story is really your power. If you don't have a story, how can you represent a company that is changing your life? So many of us have multiple stories and I really want to key in on that. We're going to have a story about possibly our energy. We're going to have a story about weight loss if we've had weight to lose. Or you might have a story about muscle gain if you've gained muscle mass. You might have a story about your sleep habits. You might have a story about, your personal growth and development. You might have a financial story. On and on and on. You're going to have tons of stories. So you want to definitely try to think right now of 3 ways that your Isagenix experience has changed your life in 3 ways. Try to pick a health story. Try to pick a wealth story if you can, and many of you have made money by now, and if you haven't yet, then keep in mind that that's going to be a story. People want to know how much, how fast, okay? So how much, how fast can be as simple as, I didn't know what I was doing, but within a month, I got $500 in a bank account, and I had no idea how that happened. I mean, really, truly, I've seen that happen to people. So, even if you're just getting started and your financial story isn't about replacing your income at this point, you probably have a financial story. Maybe your financial story is that you were able to take a vacation for the first time because you over the course of 11 months, never took any money out of your ISA wallet and you were able to take the family on a vacation. Who knows? Whatever it is, however small or however large it is, it's your story. You've got to be able to tell your story. I've heard people say, I don't have a story. And I have a really hard time accepting that because everyone has a story. Some people say, but I didn't have a big weight loss story. I don't care. I don't care if you didn't have a big weight loss story. Maybe you didn't have weight to lose. Maybe it's that your workouts are amazing, or you have better recovery after your workouts, or you've got more energy every morning. You wake up feeling refreshed instead of so groggy and tired. There are so many parts of your story you probably don't even remember if it's been years, but you really want to dig deep and figure out what your story is. You want to be able to tell your story anytime, anywhere, and it will become second nature, right? It'll be second nature. You want to be able to say it so quickly that if someone asks you, well, what has Isagenix done for you? Or, you've changed, or something is different about you, what's going on? To be able to tell it really quickly without talking too much is going to be really important. Oh, and also telling stories of other people. So you might not have a financial story that set you free at this point in time. You maybe still have to work your full-time job, but you're in the process of trying to replace your income. You can tell stories of other people that you personally know. And that's important to say that I've partnered with people who have, or a person who has, or my friend, was able to, whatever that is. For me, I was able to retire or resign from my teaching career when I was able to, exceed what I would have made as a teacher. So you can use my name and just say, a friend of mine, Tara, was able to, replace her teaching salary within 3 years and was able to step away and never have to worry about, getting 6 a.m. calls to supply teach ever again. Things like that. So, but they're short and sweet. How will you use your story and where? Obviously, prospecting anytime, three-way phone calls when you're telling your part of the story really quickly, at events, on stage, pretty much everywhere. And this time of year, you're probably seeing more people. So you want to have your story clear and concise and really to the point. And obviously, if you're talking to someone who has no weight to lose, but maybe your story is about weight loss, you're going to lose them if it has nothing to do with them. People are always wondering, what's in it for me? Remember that whole what's in it for me thing? You want to make sure that you're talking to people in a way that they're actually getting some value out of what it is your story has done for them. So I always listen more than I speak, except for during these times when I'm training you guys. This is actually hard for me to do because I like to listen more than I speak. And some of you may not understand that because you only see me speaking, but I love listening. And I'm always listening for cues. If someone's saying to me that they're really tired or they're having a really hard time dropping 10 pounds after they've had their baby, or, whatever it is, they can't keep up with their kids, or they haven't had a vacation in 2 years and they're just missing having vacation because their husband has to work all the time, or whatever it is, I'm always listening for a way to just really briefly bring my story in. And honestly, it's 30 seconds or less. It's really quick. And it's, a matter of, I'm hearing that you're saying that you really wish that you could lose that 10 pounds. Can I share with you something that worked for me? And I'm always asking that permission first. So, that's a way that I bring my story in, and then I share my 30-second story. All right, so your 30-second story. This is just a really good reference point, and some of you have done this before, so just bear with me. For the new people who have never done a 30-second story before, this is kind of the reference that you're going to use. How are you feeling before Isagenix? So you're going to start your sentence with before Isagenix, okay? So before Isagenix, and then blank, whatever that is. Before Isagenix, I was exhausted. And remember, we need to keep this compliant. You can never, ever, ever use terms that are medical. So, we do have a compliance document in isagenixbusiness.com that you can find and easily print out. It's great to have on hand, because even if you've got someone on your team that's using words that should not be used, it's good for you to just coach them through that so that they understand. And more than ever, compliance is a big thing, because with us reaching $1 billion a year in sales annually this year, we are definitely on the radar of many companies and also many health agencies. So it's all of our responsibility to make sure compliance, and I'm going to talk a bit more about compliance in the coming weeks, but just know that you cannot be caught saying the wrong thing, or you could really make it bad for the company. And we want Isagenix to be around for a long time. How are you introduced? So again, this is really important because before Isagenix, I was exhausted. How was I introduced? Well, a friend of mine cared enough about me to share what Isagenix was. So again, I'm just talking about how it was, it was a friend that introduced me. It wasn't that I went to a store and bought it off the shelf. It wasn't a doctor even. Like, if it was a doctor that told you about it, great. But for me, it was a friend that told me. And what happened? So, within 4 days of using Isagenix, I felt like a light bulb went on, and I had so much energy that I didn't even know was possible anymore. And what are you doing as a result of what happened? Now I can't help but share this with people because I'm so excited. And if it can do this for me, I can only imagine what it can do for other people. So that's kind of telling people that I'm not saying I'm doing the business. I'm just saying that if this can help me, I want to be able to help other people feel as good as I do. So that's just one part of my 30-second story about my energy. Here's one other theory that I'd really like to share with you guys before the end, and I know we're kind of going over time, and I apologize. I never know with how much to plan for, but I do want to try to get through this. Some of you have heard this before, SNAP theory. This is Lisa Nichols again. She was at the Amplified Leadership event in Vegas, and this is when like someone asks you, so what do you do? And we've heard a couple of ways that you can do this, and some of you might actually say at the beginning, well, I'm actually a teacher, or I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I'm a police officer. You could start off with what you currently do as a career. But what I'm most passionate about is. So that's one way that you can actually say what you do for a living. Or you can just omit the fact that you're actually a police officer or a stay-at-home mom or a teacher or whatever you are, a nurse. And you could actually do this type of version. So Lisa Nichols talks about the SNAP theory. It is different from the 30-second story, so you'll probably be using both at some time or another. S stands for super, N networking, A at accelerated pace. So she actually has 2 A's there, but she says that you still, just make it a SNAP. And it's all about being clear, concise, powerful, and quick. This again is really short. It's sometimes 15 to 40 seconds long. A SNAP always ends in a question and always indirectly points at the person you're talking with, okay? It speaks about the results. So just like in the 30-day system, we kind of talked about the results. We talked about, what it did for me. It created more energy for me in that one 30-second story. But that was really about me. So this is just a different way to kind of share your 30-second story if you want. Start with the results and stand in certainty. So instead of making the results at the end of the 30 seconds, make it at the beginning. And I'll give you some examples. With our typical 30-second story, we have the result at the end, and that's why I'm saying this is in reverse. So here's example number 1, and this one is, about the time freedom. So example number 1, as a result of what I do, people are enjoying life choices so that they can spend their valuable time with whom they wish, where they wish. I'm looking for people to create time freedom. Do you know anyone who might be interested? So that is very direct. It's very clear and concise. I'm helping people create more choices who want more valuable time to do what they want, with who they want, and where they want. So, I'm looking for people who want time freedom. That's my one example, and I know this is always a work in progress until I feel like it's 100% right, but that's my first example. Another one might be, as a result of what I do, people are enjoying barbecue season without the typical 10-pound gain. I'm looking for people who would like to enjoy a great summer of social gatherings without feeling restricted by a diet. Do you know anyone who might be interested? So again, this is kind of giving us the whole health side of things. And I mean, how many of us love the fact that, yeah, we might be going a little off the program right now. I know I am. I'll put my hand up high. But I know how easy it is to get back on track. And in fact, tomorrow I'm either going to do a weigh day, which some of you might not have heard about yet, and I'm going to post some of that in our team group, a weigh day or a cleanse day. And it just always makes me feel so much better to just reset myself. And sometimes it's a matter of just some of the bloating, right? We all know how easy it can be to enjoy barbecues and some extra drinks. So who wouldn't want, that? Many times when you're asking that indirect question, do you know anyone who might be interested? That is exactly where sometimes people will say, actually, I'm interested in that. And that's where you can open up the conversation. All right, we're gonna take this moment right now to do a dial in, and I'm gonna dial in with you. If you're interested in doing the question and answer. I certainly look forward to feedback. I know that it's a lot of information, and I apologize for so much info all at once, but I do really appreciate if anyone does have questions. I'll take some time, and if not, then I'll see you guys soon. Now, I do have a note on here that next week I will not have internet service. I'll actually be camping, and I know last year when I had my cell phone with me, I had no coverage whatsoever, so it really forces me to be unplugged. but I still do find it valuable to continue with week 3. So I will be recording week 3 before I leave, and I will be posting week 3. So again, you can choose when you want to listen and watch that. But again, you know, we just won't have the live option. So thanks in advance for all your support, guys. And I look forward to connecting if you are sticking around for this call.
We're sorry, the number you have now cannot be reached.
Oh, great. Maybe this isn't going to happen.
1611.
I either dialed it wrong or it's really not working. And sometimes this happens with these lines.
We're sorry, the number you have now can.
Okay, guys, I apologize. I just got a new conference line, and clearly it's not working as far as where I'm living, I guess. So what we'll do is, if you have any questions or comments about tonight, I'm going to actually stay online for the next 15 minutes or so. So feel free to go into our group, post some questions in there, and I'll certainly try to answer as many as I can. And if there's no questions or comments, I look forward to sending you the week 3 recording, and any feedback. Please use each other on that group to help each other. I know that you're already doing that. So have a great week, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in live if you did. And if you're just listening to the recording, I really appreciate that you're taking the time to invest in yourself. So with that, guys, have a wonderful week.